The following tutorial is brought to you by WholeLoops.com.
It's production time. I'm Reid Stefan, realist puppet in the game. Today, I got 10 tips to take your reverb game from basic to super wavy. The example that I've got is a track off my upcoming mixtape called My Name is Reid, and we're going to be putting together the reverb together. So let's jump right into it.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, I hustle till they know the name.
This vocal is completely bone dry other than the Autotune Pro and some parallel compression. Now, I've done videos about Autotune Pro and videos about parallel compression, so I'll just put links to those in the description so we can move on to the reverb. So let's grab a reverb out of Ableton Audio Effects. Chances are this is the reverb most of you guys following along are going to be using. So tip number 1, instead of just plopping the reverb onto the vocal channel and adjusting the amount with the dry wet knob right here, try doing it as a parallel reverb. And there's 2 ways you could do that. You could either right click in this area down here and say insert a return track and put the reverb on here at 100% and send your vocal to it with this volume control right here. But the way I like to do it is right on the track itself. So if you go to that reverb plugin and just hit Command G, or you could right click on it and select group, give this chain a name, and let's call this Ableton verb. And let's just create another chain. And because we have no plugins here, this is just going to be dry. And we're just going to bump this up to the top. So now let's give this a listen. We got our reverb at 100%. Let's turn the signal down a little bit to make up for that and see what difference we got.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way.
All right, so we've already got a little bit of space going here, but to make this really wavy and lush, we're going to need a high decay time and a high pre-delay time. Now, decay time is how long the reverb will echo out for, and pre-delay is the gap, like how long it'll wait before it begins echoing. So the long pre-delay is really going to help keep your lyrics clean while having this exciting, lush, high decay time.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, I hustle till they know the name.
You can bump the size up.
Till they know the name. I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third eye when I meditate. I don't chase no paper, it just come to me.
You kind of just got to find a nice spot depending on the tempo and cadence of your song where you don't hear it like a delay and it's kind of just a smooth echo. Now, moving on to tip number 2. It's not all going to be done in one reverb. You're going to want to combine reverbs. You're going to find that every reverb has a very different and distinct character. So maybe I'm just going to load up a couple different ones. UAD makes some of my favorite ones. The EMT250 is a plate reverb. Just a very different character. We can mute that and give this one a shot. -15. Let's just see what this one sounds like.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was
got a high feedback, high pre-delay.
Hustling, yeah, I hustle till they know the name.
Let's check it with the Ableton
Back
one.
when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, I hustle till they know the name.
So as you can see, they don't sound alike. They're not supposed to sound alike. And you could really stack 10 reverbs up here if you wanted to. Like maybe I'd like to go in and load up a different type of reverb, like the Lexicon one from UAD. This is the one you heard on my voice in the intro. I also use this on singing and hip-hop vocals all the time. Just to be organized, let's give this a name. And let's give this a nice high pre-delay like we had before. And we can adjust the decay time kind of in 3 bands with these controls.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, hustling till they know the name.
Maybe turn off the system noise. As you can see, we're kind of creating a rack of reverbs right here, and we may not end up using all of them, but how do you really know which reverb is the perfect reverb for your vocal without trying them all? And this is a super simple way to try them all, because by the time you're done stacking these up, all you got to do is save this audio effect rack as long reverbs. And next time you go to mix a vocal, you just pull this up and just shoot through all your reverbs until you find one that sounds nice. And you are making a artistic decision very quickly and easily with very little setup time. Tip number 3, as I was listening to these, we can go back especially into the Ableton verb. There's a lot of S's in these lyrics, and they kind of tend to stick out like a sore thumb in the reverb because they're kind of sensitive in the high frequencies.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way.
Like when you heard couldn't see, the S definitely lingered around for a lot longer than you wanted to. And that's a very simple problem to fix. And this took me a long while to realize that I could even do this, but you just drop a de-esser going into the reverb. That way you're not de-essing the dry signal, still no plugins here. You're just de-essing what the reverb is being triggered by.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, hustling till they know the name.
And right away, this Ableton reverb is already just hitting you in the feels way better than before. It kind of sounded like a crappy laptop reverb, and now it just feels very emotional and musical just by removing a little bit of a problem.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great.
Do your 808s sound like they belong in a recycling bin? Are your trap productions lacking that fresh organic hot sauce? Here at Whole Loops, we've got the product for you. Introducing Urban Beats 3, the latest addition to our best-selling bundle of trap snares, pop-in percussions, and the most disrespectful 808s we've ever harvested. Urban Beats 3 is available now only at wholeloops.com.
All right, tip number 4, and this is where things start to get fun. There is a lot you can do to the signal going into the reverb beyond just de-essing. In fact, something that I always do is a little bit of filtering and distorting. And if you want to do those with Ableton plugins, you could very easily pull up an EQ8 and just filter out the highs, filter out the lows. And see what, and this will just kind of concentrate the reverb in the mids where the melody is and where the vowels of the lyrics kind of lie.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, hustling till they know the name. Till they know the name. I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third eye when I meditate.
So this kind of got rid of even more unnecessary stuff. The rumbliness, more of the high kind of breathiness of the vocal that didn't sound good in the reverb. Really, we want the vowels to linger with the reverb, and that's what the filtering does. And the next thing that we can do is a little bit of saturation. And if you're just using Ableton plugins, why not just use the good old-fashioned saturator? And again, what we're doing is just distorting the signal going into the reverb.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, hustling till they know the name. Till they know the name. I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third eye when I meditate. I don't chase no paper, it just come to me.
Really lifts the reverb nicely with some harmonics. You're just adding some distortion to your mids. And I think mids are really what a lot of mixes are missing. And this is just a great way to add some mids to the vocal without actually adding mids to the vocal.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any.
Now, I'm not usually using this setup. If I'm using third-party plugins, my filtering and distorting is probably going to look a little bit more something like this going into it. You kind of just get a little bit more options in tone and quality from a plugin like Decapitator, and I would just perform my low cut and my high cut like this.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great.
Turn this down.
Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, hustling till they know the name. Till they know the name. I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third eye when I meditate.
Let's check these two effects out on another reverb. I'm just gonna hit Command X and take them off of here. Let's see what they do to the lexicon, for example.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, I hustle till they know the name.
You can see it adds a lot of richness.
I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third eye when I meditate. I don't chase no paper, it just come to me. It just come to me.
Instead of just straight up distortion like you're getting out of Decapitator, you can also try and use some bit reduction. That's just another simple method of filtering and distorting stuff. Just any way that you can mess up the signal going into the reverb is just going to give it loads and loads more character, as opposed to just sounding like a reverb on a vocal. Now the next thing we're going to want to do to enhance our reverb tails is a little bit of stereo spreading. The Ableton Reverb has a great knob for that right here that kind of does that automatically for you. By default, it's at 100.
When I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, hustling till they know the name.
What this is doing is simply adding some detuning to the left and right side, so they're slightly different. But if your reverb plugin doesn't have a knob to increase the stereo-ness of it, I will often load up the Vitalizer. UAD has one, and Plugin Alliance has one, and they sound just about exactly the same. And this stereo expander knob just works some magic on reverbs. Let's check it out going into the EMT. And let's also keep our de-esser and Decapitator going into the EMT too.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way.
Let's flip it off.
Hustling, yeah, hustling till they know the name.
Gets a little louder too.
I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third eye when I meditate.
You may not get everything you want out of just one reverb, like I said earlier, or even two reverbs. Like for example, this EMT sounds awesome in the mids, but it doesn't let you put a longer decay time than 4.5 seconds. So I want to use this, but I'm gonna have to use this in conjunction with something like the Ableton Reverb, which gives you a long decay time. So let's check out just both of these together.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, hustling to...
You can even further blend these by just panning these ever so slightly. So maybe one happens a little bit more on this side and vice versa.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, hustling till they know the name. Till they know the name. I've been visualizing like it's everything.
Let's just put the third one in there too, why not?
I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third eye when I meditate. I don't chase no paper, it just come to me.
All right, tip number 6. Now, even though we have a long reverb tail, it kind of dies out and gets lost a little sooner than I'd like it to, and we can very easily help those linger around with some compression. If I was just using an Ableton plugin, may as well just throw the good old-fashioned compressor on here. Actually, let's drag it on here and let's just compress the Ableton reverb, since this is going to be the longest one.
I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third eye when I meditate. I don't chase no paper, it just come to me. It just come to me. Sitting on some makers, I got property.
If I have the option of using a Waves plugin, I'd probably be using the MV2 for this same kind of task. If I was putting a compressor after a reverb, I kind of just like the way this subtly does it. You can bring up the volume of the quiet stuff, bring down the volume of the loud stuff, and then the overall volume.
I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third eye when I meditate.
Really, really nice way to fill in the gaps between the lyrics without even having to add a delay in there. Tip number 8. What's really going to make this come to life is how you automate it. Having this reverb blasting the entire time is not going to help the listener vibe with the lyrics. You want to pick which lyrics you are more about feeling and which lyrics are more about something specific. And I would say the hook is probably more the feels and the verse is probably more the specific stuff. So I'm going to kind of automate that same way with how I adjust the volume of the reverb. And to automate your reverb volumes in this stack, all you got to do is just click on whichever one you would like to do some automation on. And let's pull it down in the verse when the drums come in. That way we can hear the lyrics a little better.
I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third eye when I meditate.
Maybe we'll just turn down the long ones and keep the EMT 250 going, because I like how that makes the voice sound a little bit richer.
I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third eye when I meditate.
And it's such a dark reverb that it doesn't intrude so much like these higher ones do. So I would just take this verse automation and just copy it over to the second verse. You could see how you can really customize your reverbs just by making them move a little bit or come in and out, or maybe introduce a new reverb just in the post hook, or maybe have a reverb that's just in the intro. These are all ways to make your song more of an experience rather than something with an effect on it the whole time. Another really, really useful effect is automating the mutes.
I've been visualizing like
I would probably automate a mute somewhere right here before the drums come in just to help capture your attention. So you just click this and just pull that down. And then let's actually do a mute on all these guys. And then, or you could just say show automation like that too. Let's check it out now.
hustling, yeah, hustling till they know the name. Till they know the name. I've been visualizing like it's everything. See it through my third.
Maybe we don't want it to be quite that dry. We'll delete the automation on this one and just leave the EMT 250.
Till they know the name. I've been visualizing like it's everything.
You can even turn this one down a little bit more. So mute automation and volume automation, super critical to make this vocal feel like it's actually doing something and going somewhere.
Till they know the name. I've been visualizing.
And don't have your volumes jump up in a gap like mine just did.
Till they know the name. I've been visualizing like it's everything.
Really smooth. The next thing that we're going to want to automate for tip number 9 is the feedback control in our reverbs. Let's do some automation in these gaps in between the phrases of the verse here with the decay time control to help it fill that in even better. Boom. And you only have to bump it up just a couple seconds. Just that little bump in, I don't know, maybe 5 more seconds of reverb is just going to help these lyrics sound that much different from the other words. Let's see how this sounds.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, hustling till they know the name.
Maybe we can even turn down the lyrics, kind of the setup lyrics, and just leave the lyrics that rhyme going into the high decay time.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, hustling till they know the name.
Just that little adjustment helped the reverb not clash with the lyrics. So there is a whole lot of automation that goes into producing a finished sounding a cappella, because when you're done, you want to be able to mute your beat and just listen to the vocal and have it be just as exciting and interesting as it would be if there was a beat there for you to listen to. And what's going to make that happen is your automation. Now, the 10th and final tip that I have to add something special to your reverbs is adding a delay to your reverb. Even something as simple as the ping pong delay here in Ableton will solve the problem of, perhaps a reverb you like doesn't go that high in decay time. Give it some decay time by having those reverbs delay. And since this delay is here on the reverb channel, we can actually run the wet dry at, maybe 15%.
Back when I was young, I knew that I was great. Couldn't see it going any other way. Hustling, yeah, I hustle till they know the name. Till they know the name.
This will also help give your delays some echo by putting the same, quarter note delay or ping pong delay that you're putting on the voice here on the reverb channel too. Because if one echo sounds good, there's a good chance that maybe one more echo of reverb is going to sound good as well. This delay on the reverb is super subtle because reverb is already very washed out, but if your reverb doesn't sound very stereo, throw a ping pong delay on there and you'll hear it bouncing left and right, and it'll give it a lot more stereo spread. Well, there you have it. Those are my top 10 tricks for taking your reverbs from basic down to wavy sound. If you got any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Until then, I'll see you guys next time with another tutorial. Peace out.